Golden Bluetooth here with you, and no, I'm not here to blow smoke. I'm on vacation, but still want to do my college football previews because it is getting closer and closer, and I am bound and determined to do every team. Today is going to be Florida State. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, of course, everybody knows, new head coach Mike Norvell from Memphis. But they also have a new offensive coordinator, Kenny Dillingham. They got some issues they got to deal with. The biggest issue is the offensive line. I'm going to talk about that here in just a little bit. But they were so bad that FSU's offense averaged less than 4 yards a game on the ground. That is a far cry from what Florida State is used to. Willie Taggart, terrible hire, terrible result. But now they move on from him. So let's talk about the offense real quick. James Blackman, he's really not a bad quarterback. He's actually pretty decent. Last year, he was 184 for 292, 63%, 17 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions for 2,339 yards. I know that's not a very good ratio, but he is a very athletic quarterback, and he has decent arm strength. Problem is, last year, Florida State finished dead last in the ACC in time of possession. In other words, the other team had the ball way more than Florida State. They do lose running back Cam Akers. That is a big deal, but they are hoping that Jashawn Corbin, the transfer from Texas A&M, can fill his shoes. His numbers really didn't pop out last year. 35 attempts for 137 yards, averaging 3.9 yards a carry, and they already averaged less than 4 yards a carry. Okay, but they do have explosive capabilities in the wide receiver area. Tamorrion Terry, their leading receiver, he has explosive speed. He has track speed. He should be the go-to receiver. There are about 3 or 4 other options that are pretty good, but he will be the main threat to go deep on. So what does his numbers look like? 60 receptions, 1,188 yards, and 9 touchdowns last year in 2019. But like I said before, the offensive line is horrendous. Their biggest issue, the basics. Technique, terrible. They can't pull. They can't get to the second level. They can't even chop block properly, legally. So, there's a lot of things that need to be taught for the offensive line. Otherwise, James Blackman is going to end up on his back all the time, and there's going to be no holes for the incoming running back. But I will say, they did get a little bit of help on the offensive line. Devontae Love-Taylor, transfer from FIU. If he can instill some toughness and some technique with the other guys, they might have a chance. Let's look at the bright side for Florida State. The defense. They also bring in a new defensive coordinator, Adam Fuller. He's also from Memphis, and they do have 10 returning starters. The bad news? They weren't great. They were okay, but not great. The secondary surrendered 277 yards through the air per game. That's not great. Not great at all, actually. Hassan Nazirdine, that's a tough one. Hopefully I said that right. He anchors the secondary, and he needs to step up and be the leader. Be the leader of that secondary. Protect the deep ball and keep people out of the end zone. They also have a good cornerback in Asante Samuel. He also needs to step up. Their strength should be the defensive line. They have Marvin Wilson, Corey Durden, and Janarius Robinson coming back. And they were pretty stout, and so I expect their defensive line to probably be their strong suit. Another decent group for them is the linebackers. Emmett Rice, Amari Gaynor, and Leonard Wagner. They're good, but not great. So here's the way I see the defense stacking up. Defensive line, the best, as far as their defense. Secondary, the worst. Needs to get better. Linebackers right in between there, but I think the linebackers can improve the most and maybe possibly compete with the D-line as the best squad for the defense. We will see. So, the big question, can Mike excuse me. I want to say Mark for some reason. I don't know why. Mike Norvell. Can Mike Norvell, his influence and the play calling of offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham, can that combo offset a terrible offensive line? Well, you know, they were a pretty good duo in Memphis, so I think they eventually can do it. But this year, I just don't see Florida State returning to relevancy just yet. But I do think Mike Norvell is the guy to get Florida State back to relevancy. So let's go to my heaven and hell scenarios. So, heaven scenario. Like I said, Mike Norvell and offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham, they get the offensive line into shape. Play calling kind of disguises that weakness, and Florida State gets to 8 or 9 wins and a decent bowl. The hell scenario, everything falls apart. The offensive line can't block. The quarterback gets sacked, possibly gets hurt. The running back can't get through, and Florida State misses a bowl. What is going to Bluetooth think? I think it's right there, right in the middle somewhere. I don't think it's the heaven scenario or the hell scenario. I think it's right in between. I want to look at their schedule real quick. So the first game, neutral game in Atlanta against West Virginia. And like I've said before, I think the difference in this game will be West Virginia's defensive line manhandling Florida State's offensive line. I think it'll be a good game, but I'm pretty confident in calling a win for West Virginia and a loss for Florida State. So I will say loss. Then we have Samford, not Stanford, Samford at home. That's a win. At Boise State, that's a loss. At NC State, that's a win. Go look at my video for NC State, you'll see. Versus Clemson, that's a loss. Could be competitive, still a loss. Versus Wake Forest, win. At Louisville, loss. Hey, look out for Louisville to compete for the Atlantic with Clemson. Did they beat them? No, but they'll make it good. Versus Pitt at home, win, obviously. At Miami, loss. Also did a video for Miami. Go check that out as well. Versus Boston College, win. At Syracuse, win. Versus Florida, loss. So, Florida State in Mike Norvell's first year will go 6-6, get to a bowl, and this year I think they win their bowl and finish the season 7-6. So a slight step forward. But Norvell will recruit very well at Florida State and give them about 3 or 4 years, and Florida State will be back in the national spotlight, competing for playoffs and national championships. Mark it, book it. Just not this year. That's all I got for you today. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.